Hello, everyone. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the great book purge, book reorganization of 2026. We're going to see how this goes. I just have a couple of technical items here to get going. I want to get the chat up on screen. Let's see if this works. Is it going to work? Yes, there it is. This way you can kind of drop in your thoughts as they come. Welcome. If we've never met, my name is Asa Merritt. I'm a writer of several different types of genres. This video is largely going to be almost like an autobiography of my life as a writer through books. I'm so excited. The goal here today is to really refresh, just get a fresh start. It's a new year. It's a new time in my life. It's a new time as a writer. And I just want to clear some space. I want to make some room for new energy, new inspiration, new things. And I also realized that so many of these great books have been sitting on my shelf for years and years and years, and I haven't cracked them. And cosmically, I just feel like these belong out in the slipstream, out to readers, especially where I live here in Mexico City, where English language books, you can't just go buy whatever book you want. And so they have a little added element of specialness. Anyway, that's the plan. So there's a plan here. And I have so many books, and I did my best to kind of prepare for this, to really get these books pre-organized, to make this stream efficient, to kind of organize so that there's a story to tell. I didn't get all the way there. So if there's moments where I'm kind of scrambling around for books, or setting a big pile on the floor or something, please bear with me. But I'm going to present these books in chronological order through my various kind of lives as a writer. The snake skins that I've shared. I started as a playwright, and then I did screenwriting, and then recently I was really delving into kind of commercial horror writing, and now I'm doing literary fiction. My library represents that, reflects that, and there's a few books that I took out from the jump, and these 7 or so are like, we're not messing with these. We're not touching these. Under no way, shape, or form are those going to go. And I'll talk about those sort of towards the end of the stream. And yeah, my plan here is to interrogate the books with the following question. Will this book help me grow as a writer? I was journaling about this morning, trying to figure out, okay, this is not just like a favorite situation. Let's be precise. Let's be conscious. Let's be deliberate about this purge. What that means for me, what does it take? Will this book help me grow as a writer? Grow kind of means 2 different things. It means excellence. So it's a book that does something that I want to be able to do as a writer from kind of a craft perspective, from a technical perspective. And then the other thing that I'm always striving to improve is kind of the art of it all, right? Whether a particular book is clearly a work of art where someone has thrown themselves into it totally, and it makes me feel something to the extent that I want my work to make someone else feel that way. So that's kind of how I'm defining, grow, right? And it makes me think of the kind of that sports analogy. If you want to get better at a sport, you play with people who are better than you. So that's kind of one part of my criteria. The other part of my criteria is like, what kind of books do I want in this room? What kind of books do I want in this studio that I come right in every day? What kind of energy do I want in the room? Who do I want watching me while I write? Who do I want whispering their ideas or distracting me, right? It's a bit abstract. It's a bit woo-woo, as they say on the internet, but I think it's useful. I think it's going to be useful for me. 51 Tesla says, good luck. Thank you. If you're in the chat, let me know just so I have a sense of who's here and who's not. I'm so glad you are here if you are. Okay, let's get started. So I really got my start as a writer, as a playwright. So there is a massive stack to my left off screen of about 100 or so plays. And, I'm going to go through these pretty quickly for the sake of it, but I kind of just want to touch on them because this really is my foundation. This really is when I started writing in earnest. And so I owe a lot to these books. And while today I'm writing literary fiction, that's where my energy is going. It's really all these plays that kind of got me into a place where I was reading all the time and writing all the time. So I'm going to go through them and see if any of these hits that criteria, right? Where it'll help me grow as a writer. And that, it'll probably be a reread on some of these, but we'll see. So I'm just going to start hitting these, and let me know what you think if you've read some of these, or. So let's just get going. Arthur Miller, The Crucible, classic. Don't think I need that one anymore. This was a really important playwright for me, Sam Shepard. So this is an American writer, really gritty, really stylized dialogue, super poetic, really kind of masculine, American Westy. And I was really compelled by that aesthetic when I was much younger. And, I don't really need to read his plays again, but I will say that this was a writer who was really exciting to me because they were the first writers, one of the first writers, period, that I just read everything that they had written, which is much easier to do with playwrights. So we don't need that. Greater Tuna, don't know what that is. Don't know what this is. This playwright is going to be one of the playwrights that is going to be difficult to part with in the course of this stream. This is probably my favorite playwright. This is one of his plays. This is Shining City by the Irish playwright Conor McPherson. Conor McPherson, I waited outside a theater one day in New York City. This play, I think it was. Watched the show. I knew he was in town, and I waited and I waited and I waited. The actors left, the stage manager left, and there was Conor McPherson. He came out, and I bumbled and shook his hand and gave him a little note about trying to get a coffee. No, that's not true. I asked him if he wanted to get a coffee, and he was so kind. And he said, I totally would, but I'm leaving the next day. So if you see this, Mr. McPherson, I appreciate you. But since we're in the moment of where we're going, where we're growing, while these plays I do love and adore, I'm not going to save all of Conor McPherson's plays. So we're going to put this in the discard as well. Overall, this is just like, I'm just trying to clear stuff. I'm throwing away all my clothes right now, y'all. This is like a new time in life. Okay, so All in the Timing by David Ives. American play, don't need that anymore. Chekhov, The Master. This is the Paul Schmidt translation of Chekhov's plays. Oof. I do love Chekhov, but I'm not really reading theater right now. I've got this box, which I'm going to call my library box. For the sake of this stream, it's kind of going to be like a maybe pile, but I did have this idea of having kind of like a library. If I can get my full permanent collection down to, say, 25, 30, 40 tops books, I want to give myself some space to kind of have like the in and out books that were gifts that I want to read, or books that I'm reading for kind of research reasons. So that's what this box is for. But in the meanwhile, I'm going to put this as a maybe. Rabbit Hole, beautiful Pulitzer Prize winning play. Moving on. 10-minute plays. It's not a great collection. This is a really beautiful play. This is a beautiful, powerful play. This might deserve a reread. This is called Night Mother by Marcia Norman. This play won the Pulitzer Prize. Incredibly powerful piece of drama in that it opens with, it's the two-hander, two characters, a mom and a daughter, and it opens with the mother saying, I'm going to take my life today, so I'm going to get you ready so that you can handle it when I'm gone. And the next 90 minutes of this play is just that. She tells her where the towels go. She tells her what time the mail comes. These quotidian details with this like deep, menacing threat underneath it. It's incredible. I won't spoil it. Excellent play. It's gonna stay. First official keeper of the stream, y'all. Laura Huntress is here. Welcome. Hey, Laura. Hi. This is the second copy of that. We definitely don't need that. Brian Friel. I'm not going to keep this play, but it bears saying right now that all of these Irish playwrights, it's such a school of playwriting, and there's such a rich tradition of theater in Ireland. I saw theater in Dublin. It was so good. All these playwrights are really great and left a big mark on me because, for a couple reasons, as a writer. One, they're just so language forward. They're so kind of rich, yet while still sounding true to life, somehow it kind of lives in this like poetic naturalism, kind of like Chekhov a little bit. And also important for me in my writing journey is that a lot of Irish plays are monologues. So, some Irish plays are just one character, one person on stage. And I really like that form. And that form has continued to inform my fiction. 60 Hanger says, Greater Tuna high school classic, not literary enough for you. Okay, well, I didn't even recognize it, 60 Hangers, so I appreciate you confirming that decision. All right, don't need these. This is another playwright that I was once enamored with, but have sort of graduated from, or sort of, they don't excite me in the same way. This is this playwright called Martin McDonagh. Whoop. You may know him from his movies or his plays, but his movies, Three Billboards, In Bruges. He had another one recently. Oh, that last one where the two old guys in the bar. Martin McDonagh, exciting writer. I think his plays are better than his movies for what it's worth, but they just don't speak to me anymore. So if I'm going back to this criteria, does this book help me grow as a writer? The answer is no. This is great, y'all. This is great. We've only kept one book so far. Okay, Connor McPherson. I said Shining City is the one that I saw him at. I think that this actually is the one that I saw him at. This is called Port Authority, another beautiful play by him. There's one play of his that I think I'm going to have to keep. It's not that one. More Sam Shepard, more Sean Casey, another Irish playwright. What else? Oof, 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 y'all. Oof, we're getting into the good ones here. Okay, so this is The Glass Menagerie by Tennessee Williams. If you don't know Tennessee Williams, know Tennessee Williams, one of the great American playwrights of all time, a true Southern writer. These plays are always devastating, heartfelt, just they break you, they make you cry. And I'm going to keep this one. I don't know if I'm going to keep all my Tennessee Williams plays, but we're going to keep Glass Menagerie. Closer, maybe you saw the movie, the play is better. The movie's good. Don't need this, don't need this, don't need this. These are plays that I bought kind of aspirationally. We've got this, The Prince of Hamburg, and this 4 plays of Chikamatsu. I was probably thinking to myself, you need to read broader. Did I ever read these? I did not. Don't need this. Oof, okay. Here's another playwright that I have to talk about. I just have to talk about, and I'm not one to kind of be a commentator, but this was a bit of a betrayal for me as a writer and writers that they like. David Mamet, one of the great American playwrights, is officially an asshole, y'all. His politics are utterly untenable. He is kind of nasty. He's a jerk. And it's just, he kind of relishes that role. And it's just a big bummer because his plays are really good. And I got to say that David Mamet might have been the first playwright that I read everything that they wrote. The dialogue just flies. There's such a sense of pace in Mamet's plays. It just grabs you. This dialogue just grabs you. He wrote a lot of good stuff about writing, about acting. So in any way, I really can't endorse this guy because he's still alive, I think, and is just causing problems. So goodbye. All right, this is The Visit. Oh. What do we think of this? The Visit, a tragicomedy by Friedrich Dürrenmatt. This cover is kind of speaking to me. One of the major German language dramatists of the 20th century and the author of such widely performed works as The Physicist and Romulus the Great, Friedrich Dürrenmatt is one of the most significant playwrights of our time. Well, I haven't read this, somehow it got in the stack, but it's kind of calling my name. It's kind of calling my name, so we're going to keep this one. Harold Pinter. Let's just speak briefly on Harold Pinter. Hey, Laura Hunters, this is amazing. You're in the flow. Good. I'm going to keep going. This is, okay, so Harold Pinter, this was my order, y'all. It was like Mamet and then Pinter. This is another writer who was very prolific. I mean, I think dozens of plays, and I just started reading them one a day. I remember where I was when I read these plays. I had whatchamacallit, uh, the jobs you have in college where they're like part of your financial aid. One of those jobs. Oh my gosh. And I just read these. I was working in a computer lab. I was working in a computer lab at the college where I went to, Columbia in New York, and I just read these all day long because I never had any work to do, and I just burned through Pinter. So what I love about Pinter as well is the dialogue flies, but unlike Mammoth, which is like rooted in this very American Pinter's English dialect, kind of colloquial idiom. Pinter, this is absurdist, right? Pinter's like an heir of Beckett, and it got me thinking a lot about, oh, this is what happens when you don't write. Work study, thank you. Work study. When I was at work study, I discovered Harold Pinter, and it just, yes, existentialism, absurdism, wrote some really good radio plays. Oh, but I got to move on, y'all, right? This is the past. I'm going to keep this one with the condition that I toss any other Harold Pinter plays. Vamos a ver, because this might be his best, The Homecoming. It's about a marriage, it's dark, ooh, good stuff. Okay, up there with Sam Shepard and David Mamet, Titans and Tennessee Williams of American theater, the late great Eugene O'Neill. Talk about somebody who will make you feel something. This guy definitely will. Struggled with alcoholism. He writes about alcohol profoundly. Do I need these plays? I definitely don't, for a couple reasons. One, I just feel like I read him closely enough that I don't necessarily need to revisit him. And these are kind of on his like second tier of his collection. Don't need to talk about this. Don't need to talk about this. More Conor McPherson, y'all. We're moving on. It's a new time. This is an interesting one. Metamorphoses, right? As you may know, the original Latin text written by Ovid, who I share a birthday with. This adaptation, I think I saw this adaptation, but I don't think I read the script. I think I saw it on stage. I do love the Metamorphoses. Laura, you may have read as well the Ted Hughes's Ovid, which I love as well. But you know what? I'm just going to show you this cover. Do you see that amazing pool? What made this production so amazing was the staging of it. So I think it can go. This is so empowering. See, all kinds of Mamet in the mix. This is an incredible play. I think this won the Pulitzer. Gotta go, Mamet. A very dark play. We talked about Night Mother and the premise and how this mom is like, today's my last day of my life, get ready. This play is even more intense. Sarah Kane took her own life as a young woman. This is the last play she wrote. It's called 448 Psychosis. And my God, y'all, if you want to feel something, take the 45 minutes and read this play. Gives me goosebumps just talking about it, to be perfectly honest. It stays. Streetcar Named Desire, more Tennessee Williams. I mean, it's not my favorite. It's got to go. Just carte blanche getting rid of these ones. More Tennessee Williams, Cat on a Hot 10 Roof. More Sarah Kane. Okay, here's an option here because this collection includes 448 Psychosis. So let's make a little swap. But I do like the elegance of this cover. This is so small. All right, thanks for bearing with me. As I said, sort of prepared for this. Did the best I could to be ready for y'all, but there's a lot of play. So I'm kind of figuring it out as I go here and who really deserves my consideration. August Wilson, one of the other great early playwrights. Fences is maybe his most famous play, which they then made into a movie. One of the great Black writers of the United States of America. I like his plays, but they're almost a little too folksy for me. They're just a little too like slightly leaning into this like community sentimentalism. Appreciate this playwright, not going to keep it. This is a play I was in high school, Skin of Our Teeth by Thornton Wilder. It can go. Oof, okay, here we go. This is really fun because I'm just stopping to talk about the ones that I really love, the writers I really love. This is another Irish playwright who is named Enda Walsh. This is an incredible duology of plays, which is not the kind of duology when you think of in fiction. What this play did essentially is he rewrote the same play twice with a cast of all men in the Walworth farce and with all women in the New Electric Ballroom. And I love this playwright, period, but bringing it back to this idea, will this book help me grow as a writer? This one I think deserves to stay because what it is doing formally, what I just described, like telling the story both through a male cast and a female cast, is so ambitious that I'm trying to write this novel through stories right now that maybe has poems, that maybe has found text. And so it's just kind of like, let's read some formally ambitious stuff. This one stays. If you saw this on Broadway, incredible production. I'm happy for you. Let's see. What do we got? What do we got? Don't even recognize these. Ooh, okay. Here's a good one. Here's a good one. Trouble is I can't keep everyone that's just a good one. And that's kind of what I'm trying to sort out here. This is Equus. Okay. So I think they made a movie of this. Yes, a superb film starring Richard Burton and Peter Firth. I did not see the movie. This play is about, I want to say, I can't be forgetting this, is about a kid that murders a horse. But I also think this is some dark, dark, dark stuff. And this is the kind of play that my memory is failing me right now. Oh, Asa, would you please show the book covers on the other side of the screen? I can't see them because your chat screen is covering them up. Yeah, sure, no problem. I can totally make that happen. Also, I can just do this a little bit too. Right, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. Put this over here. Thank you. Thank you, 51 Tesla. Okay, y'all, so Equus. I don't know if I'm going to keep this, but there is something amazing, a little like kind of a piece of apocrypha about, I don't know if I'm using that right, that about this play that I want to find because it speaks so much about the writing process. And I thought it was always kind of magical. Essentially, a note on the text. Here's the author. No. Yes, here's the author. A note on the play. One weekend over 2 years ago, I was driving with a friend through bleak countryside. We passed a stable. Suddenly, he was reminded by it of an alarming crime which he had heard about recently at a dinner party in London, the kid that murders all these horses. He knew only one horrible detail, and his complete mention of it could barely have lasted a minute, but it was enough to arouse in me an intense fascination. Okay, I'll stop reading there, but I remember. The anecdote here is that Peter Schaefer, the writer of Equus, yes, we're on screen. Peter Schaefer, he goes on to say in that introduction that he very specifically chose not to research the incident. He didn't go up and look up the crime annals. He didn't go look up the newspapers. He went off that singular detail. And that, he said, I don't want to know. I'm so fired up. I'm so inspired by that detail. I'm just going to let it rip. And I'm not going to find out what happens. I thought that was really cool. I remember that. But I don't need to read it again. Onward. Okay. Now, here's the first kind of like, well, one of the first sort of masterpieces on hand. That's kind of this question of like, do I need to keep? On the one hand, I am kind of a classics girl, right? I like having the great books around. I kind of came up reading the great books, whatever the canon. I'm kind of a sucker for all that, but I don't think I need Waiting for Godot. I've seen it so many times. I've read it. I think I can let it go. I think I can let it go. Next classic in the mix, this is Sophocles. And Robert Fagles is the translator of this. And if you are a classics girl like me, the translator kind of makes a big difference. I can't remember. I don't think this is the translator that I'm in love with, but these are classic. I'm not ready to part with Oedipus. I mean, y'all, Oedipus. It's like the foundation of the West. Okay. Just kind of going for it here. You know, I've never made a book video, but it kind of feels good. I hope this is sufficiently entertaining for y'all on this fine Friday. Okay, these are in the other. We're almost done with the plays. We're almost done with the plays, which again is phase one of my kind of autobiography here. We're going from plays to film, which is a really short section. Then we've got commercial horror coming up, and finally, at the end, literary fiction, and then finally, my absolute favorites. So that's where we're at in this. If you're hopping on, and you missed the beginning, and the purpose of this great purge is to create new energy for the writer that I'm becoming, to say goodbye to the writer that I was. Not that I'll ever lose those things, but we just got to make room on the shelves. And it's almost spring, and I mean, Year of the Horse, y'all. It's just time. What else? What else? And the good news is that there's one English language bookstore here in Mexico City, which I think is going to like most of these books and take them, or at least a lot of them. A lot of the same repeats, more Martin McDonagh. All going away. Anything in here that I can't live without? Okay. I think the answer to that is yes. This is a play that I at least want to give a second glance, and I won't do it on this video, but this is a play by a Russian playwright that doesn't always make the cut in terms of what is produced abroad, but Too Clever by a Half by Alexander Ostrovsky. And I remember, or alternative title, Diary of a Scoundrel. I don't remember anything about this, but I do remember liking it. So I'm just gonna save this. I'm just gonna go in I'm gonna save it for now. All right, anything else? I will say that while I have sort of moved on from my affection for Martin McDonagh, here we go. Martin McDonagh, the Irish playwright who made all those movies I was talking about, 3 Billboards in Bruges. If you want to read a play by his and you only could pick one, this is the one. It's called The Pillow Man. Incredible play. So dark. If you like storytelling, if you like fairy tales, if you like just black humor, incredible play. I don't need to read it again, but you should read it. If you were here, I'd just give this to you. I'd put it in your hand. All right. Are we through with plays? I think we're through with plays, y'all. Not bad. We only have 6 down there on the floor. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Moving on to the screenplay dramatic writing piece. Okay, we're back. So, when you go to film school, when you go to screenwriting school, most of the stuff you're reading is like theory or these very kind of how-to type guides that I'm about to share with you. You can find screenplays online, but a lot of times you're just trying to watch films, take them in, see how they work, talk to them. But for some reason or the other, well, there's answers to that. But screenwriting has all these guides, and I don't need them anymore. I actually am a huge, excuse me, sucker for structure books. I kind of love them. I find commercial standard structure to be an incredibly interesting thing to study and deploy when necessary, even in highly literary pieces. I mean, this is stuff that maybe someday I'll talk more about on the channel. But in the meanwhile, just to go through these, I'm going to identify right now if there's any that I want to stick around. So again, the criteria that I'm trying to embrace here is like, is this going to help me grow as a writer? Which means, is this writing that I technically is going to teach me something? Or is the kind of book that I want to be around from a more kind of holistic, this represents what I want in my writing as a writer? That's the criteria. All right. Story guides. John Truby, 22 Steps. Maybe you've heard of that. That's one of these various story structures. You've got Sid Field, you've got Save the Cat. These are all the various ones, and I've got most of those books. I think I'm going to toss most of them. This is William Goldman, very famous screenwriter. He wrote All the President's Men. Don't need to read these again. Oh, somehow this slipped in there. This is a book about how to sell short stories. This is staying. Patricia Highsmith. So Patricia Highsmith, author of Talented Mr. Ripley, Strangers on a Train, a lot of her novels got made into screenplays, and she obviously had this amazing instinct for writing suspense. This is an okay writing book. You don't need this writing book. It's kind of just, it seems like someone came to her and was like, hey, we'll give you like 15 grand. I'm making that number up because it was a long time ago, to like write a how-to writing book. And, it's just kind of like, if you really love Patricia Highsmith, which I do, it's like worth a read, but it's not particularly useful as a writing guide. So I'm gonna say pass on this. Here's a book that some of y'all have recommended. I think it's called Bird by Bird by Anne Lamott. Some instructions on writing and life. I want to read this. I haven't touched it. It gets recommended all the time, so we'll keep this in the mix for now. The Writer's Journey by Christopher Vogler. Essentially, what this book is it's like you're a writer and you're on the hero's journey. So the hero's journey, the Star Wars structure, the 12 steps, allies, trials. It's a lot of pages to say that. So I just think I started reading this and it was like, yeah, writing is hard and you may or may not make it. So I don't think you need this. One of the many playwriting books I have, this is not a good one. This is a book that I also haven't read yet and want to keep. And I think it is really in line with this moment I'm in, where I'm writing literary fiction, where I'm writing formally ambitious literary fiction that does different things. And in the same way that I kept that Enda Walsh duology play project where there's the all-female cast, the all-male cast doing something really interesting formally, the point of this book, which I haven't read yet, but it's about structure, because I'm a structure head, and it says design and pattern and narrative. And the thing here is that it basically, my understanding, the reason why I bought this book is that it says, hey, listen, you don't have to follow those structures. There's all these different sorts of experimental structures that actually work. So all this is like just food for thought. I kind of just like reading about it, and it doesn't form my writing, but I'm definitely not one of these, outliners that just like follows these beats, beat by beat. This book is a better playwriting book and screenwriting book than the former one. This is called The Art of Dramatic Writing. This is a classic. This has been around forever. And it's okay. It's better. I don't need it anymore. Another one that I haven't read, Into the Woods. This one I'm keeping because I haven't read it yet. Some standards that can go. This is a really good one that I don't need anymore, but I recommend. And there's a lot of really good resources online that kind of summarize this free, right? This is not like pirating. There's like good articles that the author herself wrote that explains some of these ideas. And this is a really valuable framework about structure that applies to books, to screenplays, anything else. I found this one really useful, and it's simple. It's called the Nutshell Technique. This is by a script doctor and editor, Jill Chamberlain. How's everybody doing? How are we doing? We just finished part 2 here. We finished the theater, we finished the screenwriting, and what's next is the part of the live stream that I think is going to be kind of, oh my God, I just bought this book like 6 months ago, and I'm going to be thinking about how much I spend on all these books, but I don't need them anymore because I've moved on, which is the commercial horror part of my collection, part of my library. We're going to go through that next. So yeah, I hope everyone's doing okay. I'm just going to keep plowing ahead here. Keep plowing ahead and hope that this is, yeah, just a little insecure about this stream, just a tiny bit. But we're getting there. All right, let me grab the rest of these books that fall into this commercial horror category. Stand by. So many books, y'all. Okay, here we go. So, part 3, commercial horror. Part of this is just saying goodbye. Part of this is just acknowledging the evolution. And when I set out to do this, I didn't at first see it as going through my whole writing life and just reviewing the things I cared about, the things that inspired me over all these years. At first I was like, you just need to clean your studio. And it's more than that. And this particular phase, it's not like a failure per se, but it was one where it was a real exploratory time, and this transition to commercial horror did come really organically out of my writing career. I was writing work for audio. The biggest project that I've written to date was a series for Audible starring Stephanie Shu, and it's called 6 Sermons. The market for those scripted audio shows dried up, but the market for audiobooks was and is really robust. And so I had this horror project about hearing loss and paranoia and the uncanny that I was pitching around as an audiobook. And then I was like, ooh, commercial horror. This is where I need to make a living. This is how I can do it. This is how I can pay the bills with writing. And so that was like a foray. But ultimately, what I've realized is that that is not what I meant to be doing. It's not drawing me as a writer, an artist rather. And I just think that if it's not really calling me, then I'm not going to be able to sell those books, because there's a lot of really amazing horror writers who love it. So it's just not for me anymore. Let me go through some of these books though. I Am Legend, classic, great read. I've got Carmen Machado here. I've got two pieces by Carmen Machado. I've got this book, which is her collection of short stories, Her Body and Other Parties, as well as her graphic novel. As a public figure, Carmen Machado is so cool. She is outspoken. She is queer. She is part of the community. She's pushing the needle. She's teaching writing. What a figure. I don't love her fiction. I did absolutely love her memoir, Welcome to the Dream House, and cannot recommend that enough. It's this incredible memoir of emotional abuse within a relationship. These didn't speak to me. So despite it being an IT book National Book Award finalist, not for me. It's gonna go in the discard pile. Here's another book by Richard Matheson, who also wrote I Am Legend, the book I just had up there. And this, I've really liked I Am Legend. And Richard Matheson is pretty literary. And I'm not on some like literary, these genres are marketing things. But I am drawn to, as a reader and writer right now, more literary material. And Stephen King calls this the scariest haunted house novel ever written. So this could be a good read. Elio, my 6-year-old, would want me to read this to him out loud. That would be interesting. He wants to watch movies all the time that would give him nightmares. We experiment with fiction. We're going to keep this one. Annihilation, Jeff Vandermeer, brand new copy. Paid like $20 for this and I'm not going to read it. I'm going to hold on to this because I haven't given Jeff Vandermeer a chance, really. He did edit this science fiction collection that my friend Sarah and I were reading at length. So here on YouTube. And I did love his work as an editor, his voice as an editor. So I'm going to hold this one too. Come Closer. This was a book that I recommend softly if you want to read a book about how to write a horror bestseller. It's like tight, it's punchy, it's well plotted, it's well paced. Kind of forgettable for me, but it's a good reference. It's going to get tossed. Bad Cree. This is, what is this? I'm thinking this is like Native American noir type vibe. This was on a list and it looks cool and I'm not gonna get rid of this yet. Head Full of Ghosts. I started this, wasn't into it. It's heralded as a great horror novel, but moving on. Lovecraft. Lovecraft's amazing. Is he where I'm at? No. Will I take the $8 that the used bookstore will give me for it? I think I will. What else? A lot I'm going to toss here. I do want to shout out to Tananarive Due briefly. This is a novel, The Between, and I started this novel. Tananarive Due is an Afrofuturist, another person who I really admire in public. She's really kind of at the vanguard of contemporary horror, a colleague of Jordan Peele, says a lot of smart things about horror. And I was taking a writing class with her for a while, and not personally, but she has kind of this like writing school that was useful to a point, but then it just kind of lost the inspiration for me, and I moved on. So, but shout out to Tananarive for her very good, but kind of conventional, dare I say, horror stories. R.I.P. in my life. Thomas Ligotti. How I discovered Thomas Ligotti, I don't know. But this guy is absolutely insane if you haven't read him before. This is the darkest of dark, so nihilistic. This guy doesn't even believe that people should have children. And that sounds perhaps too intense, but this fiction is amazing. So we're going to keep it there. The Mist, Stephen King, it can go. All right. We're getting there. Let's just pause the commercial horror for a hot second to get to some of these highlights. Just to kind of spice this up a little bit. These are some of my books that are not going to go anywhere. These are some of my ones that I pulled out before the purge that's happening right now and said these ones are not going. You know, someone asked me if there's one book that immediately you feel like you're not going to get rid of. What is that book? It's right here. This is The Collected Tales of Nikolai Gogol, the Russian writer, translated by Richard P. Vare and Larissa Volokonsky. And this, I like Gogol. Gogol's great. But what makes this book special for me is the moment I received it. So I was living in Paris for a fall. Shakespeare and Company, the legendary Parisian English language bookstore, had a talk where Pivert and Volokonskaya came. They spoke. I think that's why I bought this, because it was the year that this book came out. That's why I got Gogol. It was kind of arbitrary. And they just spoke so passionately about literature. And it's one of these things where when you're around extraordinary literary minds talking about what they love, to do that in a storied bookstore where Hemingway and the rest hung out. I know this is all like very romantic, but it really hit me in that moment to be in Paris, to be like 20 or whatever I was, and just being like, this is cool. This is really cool. So that's the book. It's got the nice little seal. The nice little seal. I'm going to be gentle here. It's got the Shakespeare and Co. sticker on there. It's got, and here they are. Here's the translators for ASA 2012. Special time, y'all. Also, in the definitely state, this is a book that very few people have heard of, but transformed me as a writer. White Flights, Race Fiction in the American Imagination by Jess Rowe. This is an excellent book about race in literature, in American literature, what it means to be a white writer today, what it meant to be a white writer yesterday, what it will mean tomorrow. Essential, frankly, just essential reading. If you are a white writer, this will make you interrogate your positionality in terms of your race. So honestly, this is just, you can't even read this enough times, I feel. Also, in the section of Never Going to Give Up, y'all, the Journals of Sylvia Plath. This is the edited version. Actually, the full collected version is almost 3 times as thick. The woman kept a lot of journals. This book is so magnificent to me because it was one of the first books that really showed a portrait of what it is to be afflicted by writing in this way that is quite tragic, given Sylvia Plath's end, but is also inspirational and beautiful. And it just, in her journals, she was so vulnerable, just like she is in her poetry, and the language is so insane. And her marriage with Ted Hughes, sort of burst into flames, and there were allegations of abuse and all this and that. I actually don't know all the history, but a particularly vivid part for me in this journal was when Plath describes when she meets Ted Hughes, the English poet, and how she falls in love with him. And it's just like, my God, what it would have felt like to have Sylvia Plath fall in love with you. Classic. All right, this one is one that you've probably definitely never heard of. This is an out-of-print book called An Oil Scout in the Permian Basin. A friend gave this to me because I think that this would make an incredible premise for a TV show or an audio drama. Essentially, there was this amazing little chapter of history where you had this role that probably only lasted like 15 years on some kind of like the Pony Express or something, where you had these guys who went out to look for oil. And it just sounds like such a cool, weird world. This one is the last copy I have of a book that I edited a long time ago. This is called First Blood, Birth of the Vampire. This is a book that is out of print, but should get back in print because it is about the origin of the literary vampire. So for me personally, this was like a project that it was like a gig at the time. I like found this on a job listing thing and I managed to get it. But what the book is, it's a collection of all the first writings of vampires in literature. And the idea of the project is that it traces the origin of the literary vampire as opposed to the folk vampire, right? So across time, across cultures, so many cultures have had vampire myths, creatures that suck your blood in the night, but it all kind of existed in the realm of folklore. Whereas in Germany, in 1732, somebody put down a vampire on paper in literature form. And so this collection, it tracks all that, right? It's like, it started in Germany. Let's see, can you read that? Get in focus. Not really. It starts in Germany. Then we get to Vampire, Varney the Vampire, was this penny dreadful that really elevated vampires in the public imagination, like thousands of pages of this penny dreadful. Carmilla, the Sapphic novella, which is fire. It's so good, so good. I have ambitions to maybe read it one day out loud on the channel because it's kind of short enough. And then we get up to Dracula. And so that is the history, that is the trajectory of the literary vampire. So if you need a topic for a PhD, this could be a place to start. I wrote little intros to each chapter and it could get you going. It was in the automatic stay pile. The Murderess. The Murderess by Alexandros Papadiamandis. This is a Greek novella, a social tale. And this book absolutely stunned me earlier this year. And it was a gift from a dear friend of mine in Mexico City. But even if it hadn't been a gift, I'd be keeping this book right now. This book is incredible. It's called A Social Tale. Y'all, this feels like social horror. This feels like 100-year-old Greek version of like Get Out. And I cannot recommend this book enough. This is I want to see the original English language translation. If you kind of go on, Bookshop or somewhere to find this, there's another translation that seems to be more sold today. I can't tell you how I don't know. I don't know about that one, but this one, translator Leodane Sherard, was so good. Two more books in the absolute keep pile here. We have Anton Chekhov, Life and Thought. This is really special. Selected letters and commentary. This book is really inspiring. Chekhov short stories, amazing. Obviously, plays, amazing. Obviously, the letter he wrote to his alcoholic brother, staggering. Staggering, devastating. His brother was a painter, so talented, was drinking his life away. And Anton Chekhov wrote him this long, long letter that was basically like, my man, get it together because you are a beautiful soul and a talented artist. And my God, this is the one life you've got. Make it count. Alas, the brother did perish young, I believe. But in any event, this is an incredible book if you like Chekhov. Last but not least, Pelican, Complete Works of Shakespeare. Some people like Shakespeare, some people don't. I like Shakespeare. I'm keeping it. This continues to go on. This is quite a long stream. I'm going to keep going because I'm committed to going through all my books right now. And hopefully, we're getting to literary fiction, which is what I'm currently writing. So we'll see what happens once we get there, because that might be where things get a little more challenging, because it's like, maybe I should keep all these books because that's what I'm trying to do right now. But we're going to keep going. You know what? We're not going to keep going. I'm starting to kind of weary of this and there's so many books left behind me. So we're at the hour mark of this stream. I think I'm going to call it there. Since we're here, chat, does anyone have any questions or thoughts? Or, I'm here live. So if anyone wants to kind of like toss in anything, I've been talking at you for, an hour already. So let me know if there's any thoughts here before I sign off. I think what I'm going to do is, leave all these books on my desk. this weekend I have a workshop all weekend. I'm doing this writing workshop called Tin House McCormick. And so I have like seminars to go to all weekend, which is going to be great. But I think I'm just going to leave them here. I think I'm going to leave these books here and probably pick up the Purge Reorg next week. Y'all, I've never been talking like for an hour like this. So I hope that was great. And I appreciate you. Thank you for listening. This is a very, I've never really done this in quite this kind of way, really reflect on this collection. And this collection is the result of several moves, several major purges. So all these books do mean a lot to me. And I'm in the mood to get rid of them, so I better get rid of them before my mood changes. Anyway, talk to y'all later.